Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's the third installment of our division previews for the 2025 season. We're going to jump into the AL West. Pretty exciting division to kind of prep for. It was a little bit different for me. It feels like this division is kind of at a imbalance. Things are really shifting. We still have a couple of teams projected to be outside of it as of last year. But the top three teams in projections are all expected to have the same amount of wins. So I think this is making for a very exciting division. A lot of moving parts for a few of these teams, a lot of new identities. So that's, I think, what I'm most excited about for this division. But right before we jump in, I'm just going to ask for the subscription. If you haven't subscribed yet, we do giveaways, and we're doing one at the end of the month. So make sure you're in on that. Otherwise, guys, let's jump in. First team on the board here, we have the LA Angels. Projected 76 and 86 in this upcoming season. It's going to be an improvement over last year. 63 and 99 is how they finished last year, which is to say how bad they were last year. That's what the Chicago White Sox are projected to do this year, and we all know they are expected to be the worst team in the MLB. So they're making some steps forward, and for me, the Angels is somewhat one of those exciting teams. I'm not really sure how to put my finger on it. They brought in a lot of different names that you probably have seen across the MLB for many years now. Jorge Soler, they got Yoan Moncada, Kikuchi comes in there with a 3-year deal, J.D. Davis, Travis d'Arnaud, and as well as Tim Anderson. Those three last guys kind of seems like they're coming for bench roles, potentially half starter roles. It's a very interesting team, a lot of veterans in that aspect. Do have some young guys as well. Caden Dana, a 10th overall pick from a couple of years ago for them. He's expected to maybe make his debut sometime in this season, so he could have an impact in this rotation. But other than that, projected to be tied for last with the Oakland, well, not the Oakland Athletics. We'll get to that right now. It threw me off preparing for this because I was trying to find other information. I kept typing Oakland Athletics. Oakland Athletics, kind of forgot that they were playing in Sacramento this year and that they're not really going by the Oakland Athletics anymore. It's going to be a big shift for them all across media, at least. They're being told to be called just the plain Athletics. I think we'll call them Sacramento at this point as well. But the A's projected to finish tied with the Angels at 76 and 86. They were ahead of them a few games, 6 games last year at 69 and 93. Pretty much what we talked about all throughout the year with the A's was that they just always played tough, and they were never an easy win for teams to roll in, and not often being swept, always getting things at least competitive. So that was nice to see from this team that really didn't have a whole lot going for them with the lockout of the team and all the fans protesting, all that fun stuff for last year. Hopefully we're not dealing that this year, but they do some weird stuff. They signed Luis Severino to a big contract. He's now their ace. Jeff Springs comes in to be the number 2 on the depth charts right now, and I only know him as a relief pitcher for the Rays, so I don't know how he's going to play in that position. Urshela, another veteran-ish guy coming in as a free agent. He's now the most played MLB player in their lineup, which is kind of crazy. It's quite a young roster. Rooker is kind of taking that role, Brent Rooker, on this team, as he's supposed to be the power bat, probably the guy you're going to be watching, but also very much a trade deadline sell at this point, as we saw Pat Blackburn no longer a part of this A's team. So it's going to be interesting watching the A's, more so just in this ballpark. The ballpark's going to be completely different than what we're used to in the Coliseum. One thing that really stood out to me was just the temperatures of game time. On average, very significantly different. I never realized, I guess, how cold Oakland was summer-wise for a California city. But yeah, Sacramento, much warmer. Could probably see a little bit more offense now. Not so much a pitcher-friendly ballpark that we're used to with the Oakland Stadium. Moving on. Number 3, we have Houston. I put them here. I guess they're all technically projected the same at 84 and 78. But I just kind of made, I guess, where most people are leaning, I think, in social medias and stuff like that. And Houston, while they did make the playoffs last year, winning the division, I think it comes down to 2 things. Seattle really choked the bed on that one. Texas had a lot of injuries. and the other two teams are not very competitive. So it felt like Houston kind of was just destined to make the playoffs in the West. And when they entered, they got swept by Detroit. So a little bit of a downward trajectory from what we've seen Houston in the past. It's going to be a whole new, different look Houston team. With Bregman and Verlander leaving in the offseason, it's almost as if the whole era from the whole trash gate and all that stuff is ceased to be a part of Houston anymore. It's now a chance for them to be a completely different identity and kind of leave that last history behind, which is kind of tarnished, right? They have two big signings in the offseason. Isaac Paredes, while he can bring some power, definitely with this short porch and left in Houston, I think this is going to be an interesting signing as well. Christian Walker still getting on the older side, coming from Arizona, but so far he hasn't really shown any signs of taking steps back to age or anything like that. The rotation and the bullpen for Houston is super interesting. We've kind of gotten used to seeing like McCullers, Verlander, Urquidy, and other guys in this rotation that just kind of have all gone on now. And it's almost like a new look rotation that is being led by Valdez while he is in a contract year. So that could very well be his last year here. They're kind of taking a shift for very young talent here at Houston. You got to be here for it, right? Eric Etchetti, probably saying that wrong, but he had somewhat of a rough year last year. He's kind of getting his feet wet. I think they're expecting a whole lot of a step forward here. They got Hunter Brown, of course, and Blanco, two guys as well that are super young. So it's super exciting. Houston in this spot where Jordan Alvarez has not really had someone behind him the way they kind of hoped, and they're hoping Paredes can do that. Abreu just didn't bring that last year for them whatsoever. So Houston up in there in third. Talking about Seattle, that 84-78. One game less than last year where they went 85-77 and ended up missing the playoffs by one game. I think halfway through the season, everyone had Seattle making it in, and it's just the offense was the big issue. Never was really an issue for this rotation, and coming into this season, the rotation, it pretty much stays there. They bring in that extra young guy, Emerson Hancock, as a 6th overall pick. He's going to go into that 5th slot, so they still have Castillo as well at the top of this rotation. They got Kirby, and it's just somewhat of a deep rotation. I don't think that is where the issues are going to be. They try to, I think, address the offensive issues that they saw last year that really led to that cold streak. They traded for Rosarina in July last year. They ended up signing him for another year. Possible arbitration again, and he keep coming back. Jorge Polanco, he's coming in. Rowdy Tellez, a big power bat coming off the bench, maybe something they tried to do by getting Justin Turner. It just didn't work out for them, really. Victor Robles and Haniger. Robles is a guy that they kind of picked off waivers off Washington after Washington gave up, and he really had a pretty solid year last year. If he can build off that kind of more like Washington had expected him to do, that could be interesting. Haniger, we all know that story. He leaves Seattle, goes to San Francisco, only to be traded back, and now he's a big part of this team yet again. So Seattle, they have a lot of the guys. It's really going to come down to whether Rodriguez can continue to take that step forward, continue to carry this team, and be that leader. For Texas to be on top, I think a lot of that has to do with the big names they have on this team. They spent a lot of money to really create a competitive ball club. Can't forget that they did win the World Series in 2023, and with Bruce Bochy as their manager, the guy who would go every other year with the San Francisco Giants, maybe the every other year thing is happening again here with Texas. They lose Scherzer, not a big deal. Leclerc out of their bullpen has been a staple there for a long time. Again, I don't think it's a big deal. It's kind of like they're going back. They're going to start going to some of these younger guys. Kumar Rooker, who was a 3rd overall pick. Jack Leiter, a 2nd overall pick. So these guys have some solid prospects in the starting pitching department. DeGrom, what's he going to be capable of? He's 37, I believe, off the top of my head. If he can do anything for this roster that Scherzer was doing in his time there, that'd be pretty much enough, I think. Valdi gets re-signed for a couple of years. That's going to be massive. This rotation is somewhat pretty solid by the looks of it. They add in some bats to help with Seager, to help with Semien, who didn't have the best year last year, hoping for a little bit of a back. Jock Peterson coming in, a nice lefty off the bench, but he's probably going to be more of an everyday player. They're hoping some of the other guys that had somewhat of cold years turn it around a little bit. there's a lot to be said with World Series hangovers. You do play that extra month of very intense baseball. The offseason isn't too long when it comes to MLB, so that probably could have played an impact on just how Texas started last year. They did have that very slow start. I remember in the power ranking from just out of it seemed way too early, it felt like. But I expect them to be right there in the thick of it this year. There you guys have it, a little bit of a preview of what these 5 teams did in the offseason, what it's looking like going into the regular season. We're going to hop into the National League in my next video. So for the next 3, we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the division preview predictions. I'm going to do my predictions where I think, again, this is just projected, not exactly my predictions, but those things are coming up 10 days away from the start of the season. Hope you guys are excited as I am. Can't wait to watch it. See you guys for that next video.